Hey, so my exams have just finished, which means that I'm going to start making some more videos again. It's a really nice day, so I thought I'd do this one out in the sun. I'll just show you around. I'm on the back lawn of Kings at the moment, so you can see it's a really nice day. Over there's the river where all the people are punting, and that's the library over there. So yeah, that's essentially what I'm looking at the moment. So the topic of today's video I thought would be dealing with unexpected things happening. And some of you may have no idea what I mean by this, but it will soon become clear. And it's in relation to the fact that eating disorders, you try to control as much of what you're going to do as possible, just so that there's no anxiety behind what you're doing, or as little anxiety as possible. And it's something that I had a great deal of trouble trying to get around. And the reason why I thought this topic came into my mind is actually related to my exams. So I was doing all this preparation, dealing with how to examine patients, how to interview patients, and clinical skills. I go into the exam room, and this person who I was meant to be doing I think, yeah, it was an abdomen exam, just completely threw me. And I thought, you know what, the anxiety started to happen. I was like, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And using the things that I'm going to talk to you about, it sort of helped me get around dealing with what was completely unexpected. So it didn't make it look as though I'd been completely thrown. And so, I could keep a great deal of professionalism about what I was doing. But in relation to my eating disorder, a lot of things I tried to pre-plan. So, an example being, my dad would be coming to take me on a meal out, and obviously, the eating disorder related to food, I was becoming increasingly anxious about thinking, what's going to be on this menu? What am I going to choose? What am I going to do if people want to have starters? What am I going to do if people want to have desserts? A lot of things would run through my mind. And so one of the things that I used to do was I would try and find the menu online. And in many cases, I would also try to find the nutritional information behind that menu. So I could construct sort of a schema of things that I would want to eat. And so if, when I sat down ready to eat, there would be nothing there that would surprise me, and I could just pick, and I do remember going into restaurants and like opening the menu, picking exactly what I wanted to have, and my dad would be like, oh my god, that was really quick, and good on you for not being too anxious about it. But what I sort of kept from him was that I knew exactly what I was going to have before I got there. And this became quite complex in a way that I said, what if people wanted to have starters? Well, I would construct my own menu of what it would be like if I were to have a starter, a main course, and a dessert, which would be different if I were just to have a main meal, because it would obviously be bigger. And in a way, this was good because I wasn't becoming anxious about what was going to happen. But this was bad in two ways. One, I wasn't confronting my eating disorder. I was letting the anxiety get the better of me. So I would just do something that would reduce anxiety for the time being, but it wouldn't be something that would be good in the long term. And secondly, if something unexpected happened, that whole plan was out of the window. And not only would I not have a plan, but I would be more anxious having that having happened than if I were not to have a plan and just go in, completely, unknowing of what was going to happen. And an example of that was when my dad was coming, and he said, yeah, I really wanted to go and have some fast food, and so I really planned to go to Burger King with my dad, and we went there, and it was closed. So that whole plan of what I was going to have just went out of the window completely. So when that happened, we had to completely change tact, and we decided to go to KFC instead. And obviously, I hadn't planned for that, and I had no idea what I would be eating. I knew roughly what was on the menu, but I had no idea what the nutrition was. I had no idea, anything. So I I became really, really anxious, and it showed because my dad said, I looked vacant because I was just analysing, I was thinking, I was overthinking, and it really showed. So it didn't help me in any way, shape, or form. This pre-planning was just a coping strategy rather than a long-term solution. So, the first bit of advice that I can personally give you from previous experience is to try not to pre-plan what you're going to do. And this may be really difficult for you at first because if you've got the access to be able to pre-plan, what's stopping you? There's no sort of way to stop you, and the anxiety can easily get the better of you in that situation. So the thing I did that I found really helpful was I told my dad exactly what I was doing. I said that I'd be pre-planning, I'd be looking at the menus, and I'd be choosing beforehand. And so I said to him, "Can you just not tell me where we're going?" So I went to a restaurant completely in the dark about where we were going, and seeing the menu for the first time, having no idea what was on it, it really helped, and I was able to choose something that I liked, rather than what I thought was the healthiest option, and that really did help. The second step that I took, again going against the sort of pre-planning thing, was I told my dad, if I was feeling quite anxious about the visit itself, I told him A, to choose the place, and B, to choose what he thought I would like off the menu. So I was completely out of control, and that's a step further from the previous thing that I told you to do, but it was something that I would do if I was feeling particularly down or somewhat more anxious than usual. And again, that really did help because my dad knows what I like to eat. He's not out to hurt me, and I trust him. And part of my recovery was being able to trust other people again, and doing these sort of things really did help me. If I know some of you, unfortunately, you're not exactly tight with your parents, try and find a friend to do this with, and it really does help. So yeah, that's one thing. That's one thing that I can give you. The second thing relates to if you've already pre-planned and something goes wrong, something completely unexpected puts a fork in the wheel, and you have no idea what you're going to do. If you're really unprepared and you're really anxious, the best thing I can suggest for you to do is to completely remove yourself from the situation, if it's feasible, and that can help remove the anxiety for the time being. But it's definitely not a long-term thing that I suggest you do, because that just removing yourself from a situation is denying the existence of a problem, and so in a way it's almost as bad as pre-planning itself. But if you're feeling a bit more up for the challenge, what I suggest you do is to firstly just take a few minutes to calm down, to breathe normally, to get your breathing under control, because you do tend to hyperventilate in these situations, and to just stop thinking and concentrate on your breathing. Because what happens when something goes wrong is you just start thinking. You can't stop thinking about what to do next. Oh my God, everything's gone wrong. But if you take a moment to just compose yourself, your anxiety levels will decrease to a point where you can start to make rational decisions. And in that situation, what you can then do, if it's in a restaurant, for example, and they don't have the thing that you were planning on having, or you have to go to a completely different restaurant altogether, try and choose something similar to what you were going to have in the first place, because you were happy with that. But the other thing that I suggest you do is to let the person know what exactly is happening in your mind, because they can't tell. As I said, when we were going to Burger King, it was shut. We had to go to KFC. I was completely vacant. My dad had no idea what was going through my mind, and it was only until I told him what was going through my mind that he actually understood, because he said, "I have no idea, you know, that you were thinking like that," and he was actually really sorry for me thinking like that. But the fact that I told him meant he understood what was going through my mind, so he could help me. You know, he could provide the support I needed at the time, and I found that a really good cushion for me to then start making more rational decisions. And with that support, um, you know, I would look at the menu. You know, my breathing was under control. I'd be thinking about my breathing, and I could then pick something off that menu, something that I knew I would like, and this really did help me in the long term, because being able to choose something I liked versus something that I planned um, was one of the key developments in my recovery. So yeah, that's the advice I can give you about that. If you have any other questions related to that, please do let me know in the comment section below, or just send me a direct message. I'm perfectly happy to do that. So yeah, thanks for watching.